Good evening to our viewers in the West, and thank you for joining us. Well, what is supposed to be the most wonderful time of the year has become a season of worry for many Americans, with the U.S. facing what might be the most severe wave yet of COVID infections. That's right. In fact, that wave is expected to be so big, a former head of the CDC calls it a tidal wave. In more than a quarter of the country, cases are surging. And we learned today that New York saw its most new COVID infections ever in a single day. Experts blame the dangerous Delta variant for the spike, but today the CDC warned the highly contagious Omicron strain is expected to become the dominant strain within weeks. Long COVID testing lines are stretching around the block as Americans rush to get tested before holiday gatherings. Meanwhile, the sports world is reeling tonight. The NFL moved 3 games this weekend due to outbreaks, and the NHL is postponing all games for 2 teams through at least next weekend. And there's also breaking news out of New York tonight. The Rockettes canceled the rest of their 2021 Christmas season. CBS's Elise Preston is in busy Midtown Manhattan tonight with the latest. Good evening, Elise.
Good evening, Nora. 3 surges are happening around the country tonight. There's a surge in the number of Omicron cases, a surge in COVID testing, and a surge in holiday travelers. This all has health officials concerned.
Along with packed airports comes fears of packed hospitals as the Omicron variant spreads at an alarming rate. The number of people traveling is approaching pre-pandemic levels, with 109 million Americans expected to leave home for the holidays, a 34% jump from last year. More than 6 million of them will be flying. Long lines are also at COVID testing sites in New York, Miami, and Rockford, Maryland, where the drive-through testing line stretched for several blocks.
This is not a moment to panic because we know how to protect people.
The CDC says Omicron is expected to surpass Delta as the dominant variant in just weeks. It's now in at least 41 states. In New York City, hospitalizations are up 64% in just 2 weeks.
The rapid growth is frightening.
Columbia University Medical Center's Dr. David Ho is advocating for boosters because being fully vaccinated with the Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson vaccines is proving to be less effective against Omicron.
Well, they all take a huge hit in terms of the antibodies they induce against Omicron.
This comes as Pfizer announces it's testing a 3rd vaccine dose in children under 5 because 2 doses failed to give enough immunity to kids ages 2 to 4. And 2 new CDC studies are showing the effectiveness of the so-called test to stay strategy in schools. The studies found that kids exposed to COVID can safely continue in-person learning if they are regularly tested at school. Meanwhile, there's concern over how some tests will hold up against Omicron. Dr. Anthony Fauci says some of the antigen tests may not detect the variant. And as Christmas approaches, doctors have this dire warning.
I think we need to be prepared for a surge in the coming few weeks. The wave that's coming will likely be the biggest one.
And one reason for concern here in New York, the state just hit 21,000 daily cases, the highest it's been since the pandemic began. And half of them are in New York City. Nora?
Incredible to think about those numbers. Thank you.